Hello and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darling J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. Hello there, our bucket list. So good to see you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you. I'm here to bring awareness about this program, Unknown and Unfinished, about child sexual exploitation. Hey, Randy, good to see you, my friend. Meet my friend, our bucket list. Thanks for coming in. So without further ado, I go ahead and present how I usually start it out. In Matthew 18, verse 10, take heed that you despise not one of these little ones. For I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Matthew 18, verse 6, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Colossians 3:21, fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. In Proverbs 28, verse 5, it said, evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. People tell us we just need to get over things, but no, here in Isaiah, in the Bible itself, it instructs us in Isaiah 1:17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Without further ado, let's get into this. Amen. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let me present y'all. I might need to mute my mic for a few minutes once I get over there to that. I go ahead and go to it, and then I would describe a little bit, then I'll mute the mic. This is an organization, Unknown and Unfinished, by TeBoww. I'm sure that y'all heard of him. He was a football player, if I'm not mistaken. He's got this foundation. So without further ado, I am going to mute my mic, so you will not be able to hear me.
I know we serve a big God. And I want to believe that our God is going to come through in a lot of big ways. Because our God loves these boys and girls so much. Last year, we asked you to step into the fight with us.
We showed you that there were over 50,000 children whose images sat in a global database waiting to be identified.
Boys and girls all over the world are being abused and tortured. And we still don't even know their name. Their identity is unknown. Because of you, we've been able to identify over 800 boys and girls, team and partners. We've been able to be a part of rescuing so many. And I want to say thank you for standing with us. More importantly, thank you for fighting for them. So many lives have been changed. But this year, we still have unknown in the campaign because there's still so many boys and girls that are still unknown.
Last year's campaign was called Unknown. This year's campaign is called Unknown and Unfinished because we know there are hundreds of thousands of children that we don't see in images, but that are being abused, and we know that they're hurting, and we know that they're afraid.
So we couldn't move on to a new campaign. We have to continue in this fight because the mission's unfinished. So would you please say yes, like you did last year?
What if I told you that right now, law enforcement see over 500,000 unique IP addresses that are trading images of children under 12 being sexually abused, some of them are being tortured, and some of them are being raped? What if I told you that we know that the majority of those offenders are also committing contact offenses against children in their own homes, in their own communities. These offenders have an average of 13 victims each.
That's hundreds of thousands of little boys and girls that are in desperation, that are experiencing an evil they should never have to experience.
These offenders have spent their entire lives perfecting deception.
Many sex offenders are not only capable, but they're quite adept at compartmentalizing. They seem like the nicest guys in the world. They're often very good with children. They're adept at not only grooming children, manipulating their victims, but also worming their way into our youth-serving organizations, our churches and temples, and our families. Their deviance begins to express itself, and they go online, they find other like-minded individuals with whom they begin to share everything from stories to images to videos to techniques on how to evade detection by law enforcement and how to manipulate others so that they can commit acts of harm.
The worst moments of these little boys and girls' lives, they're being memorialized, they're being celebrated, and they're being traded with people that are viewing them for their pleasure.
At TTF, we have a sense of urgency because we know hundreds of thousands of children all over the world right now are waiting to be rescued.
What we're asking you to help us do is, number one, safeguard. Safeguard as many boys and girls as possible through rescue operations with our team and partners domestically and around the world.
And we need to be able to expand our rescue operations, and we need to be able to come alongside law enforcement all over the world to increase our ability and their ability to be able to get to as many children as possible.
Number two is to stand up. Better training, stand up, better technology so that law enforcement would be equipped with the right training and technology to get to as many as fast as possible.
We have technology now that can pinpoint offenders with the highest likelihood of actually abusing children. We want to focus on those offenders, and we want to help law enforcement all over the world get to those children that need to be rescued.
And number three would be to strengthen law enforcement around the world through legislation and policy.
To finish what we started on Capitol Hill, we went to Congress because we need to be able to build a rescue team that can address this crisis at scale. Congress right now is hard at work drafting legislation based on the testimony that we gave them to get to all of these children in the unknown database, but also all the children that we can't see that we know are waiting for rescue.
I believe that we can get to so many of these boys and girls. I believe we can radically make a difference in the evil that is taking place in this world for so many boys and girls. But even if it was just one, it would still be enough. All of the work, all of the strain, all of the effort would still be enough, even if it was just for one. But we believe we can get to many more. And would you help us do that? So for my 37th birthday, I'm asking you to stand side by side with me, but for them, because you're being called to protect, to safeguard, to love all of these boys and girls. Unknown and unfinished, because the mission isn't complete until all are known and all are free.
Wow. What y'all think of that so far? So we going down further here. So right now, law enforcement can see over 500,000 unique IP addresses as they had said around the world actively traded child sexually abused material, which are images and videos of children under 12 being abused, raped, and tortured. The majority of these offenders are also committing hands-on offenses against children in their own homes and their own communities. These offenders have an average of 13 victims each. That's hundreds of thousands of little boys and girls. How we'll solve it? It's good. Tells you the solution. And said, with a donation, you'll help identify and rescue these children in 3 ways. And it's like the TeBoww expand global rescue operations to identify, locate, and rescue as many children who have been sexually abused and exploited as possible. Stand up. You equip law enforcement with training and technology that can lead to the most vulnerable children and the most dangerous offenders. Strengthen, build a bigger rescue team of analysts, investigators, and law enforcement to rescue children faster and prevent new victims through legislation. Dive deeper into this fight with us. Identified children. More than 800 victims of child sexual exploitation have been preliminarily identified in the past year. More than numbers and locations, we want you to read the words of precious little boys and girls who have been rescued and safeguarded. I am free. I found hope. I feel alive. I found a home. I found new friends. I am valued. I feel safe and free from the people that abuse me. I am free. Okay. So inside the mind of an offender. So I need to go ahead and put this out again. Mute my mic while we play this, which I want to put up here put the trigger warning up here. Okay. Let me do the setting over here. Y'all will not be able to hear me again.
What we're about to share with you is going to be very intense.
What you're about to hear might be difficult for some of you.
We're going to lift the veil for you for the first time and show you what these offenders are really like and why they do what they do. Most of these offenders live double lives. Most of them are married. They have children. They coach Little League. You see them at the grocery store. You sit next to them in church. But they are different people when they're in a community with other like-minded offenders.
As difficult as it is to read and see that communication between offenders, you should know that this happens tens of thousands of times per hour across the world. Offenders from all over the globe are communicating with each other. They're sharing fantasies, they're sharing techniques for how to find children, and they are just as graphic and just as morally reprehensible as what you just saw.
That's why we're asking you to join us. These children are unknown and our work is unfinished, and we need your help.
Dr. Michael Rourke is a licensed clinical and forensic psychologist and a former federal law enforcement officer. Following content contains statements made by offenders that viewers will find disturbing. There are different types or motivational pathways for sex offenders. There's pedophiles. Learn more. Uh-oh, so I need to mute mine again. Go there. Do. See, I need to go. Do not want to. Let me change my settings again for the audio.
Motivational pathways for sex offenders. Many are opportunistic offenders, and they commit acts of harm against children because the children are in the wrong place at the wrong time. Others are more focused. They're more predatory. They may be motivated by what we call a paraphilia, such as pedophilia. This is a specific sexual attraction to younger children. They're actually motivated, and they are committed to committing acts of abuse with prepubescent children. I once led a therapy group in the federal prison, and the topic of the group was what you did to that child might have affected her forever. One of the offenders in the group was pedophilic. He's motivated by a sexual interest in children, and he had defenses in place because he didn't really want to consider the fact that what he did to those children might have hurt them for the rest of their lives. And those distortions and those defenses were in place, and he was denying and he was justifying and rationalizing until finally he sort of crashed and he realized that in fact that was the case, that there might have been consequences he hadn't anticipated. The second type of offender is a psychopath. They don't have an ability to experience empathy. They don't have remorse or a guilty conscience. They are empty in that regard, morally, and they're capable of acting. The group was a psychopath. And when I said to him, you know, what you did to your victim might have had consequences in their life that were permanent, he sort of shrugged. It's like, you know, that we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Actually, what he said verbatim was that their parents should have told them not to get in the car with a stranger. He was empty. He was ambivalent. There was no conscience, no concern. The third type of offender is motivated by sadism, by a desire to humiliate, degrade, and hurt the most vulnerable members of our population. Sadists relish and take pleasure in hurting children and hurting adults. I once led a therapy group in the federal prison, and the topic of the group was what you did to that child might have affected her forever. And this offender, when I looked at him and asked him to speak to this issue, and said, "You know, what you did to your victim might have hurt her for the rest of her life." He smiled, and he looked at me straight in the eyes, and he said, "That's why I did it." He said, "I didn't choose the youngest child. I didn't choose the blonde-headed or dark-haired child. I chose the happiest child on the playground. I chose the ray of sunshine, the one who was waving and laughing, and that was my identified victim." And then he looked at me and he said, "She was my victim because I wanted to destroy her soul."
Last year, we asked you to step into the fight with us in the Unknown campaign, and so many of you did. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for fighting with us. More importantly, thank you for fighting for them.
In the last year, because of you, because thousands of you have stepped up, over 800 children around the world have been identified. In almost every country in the world, children have been identified and brought to safety.
And I want to read a couple of phrases from real boys and girls that were brought into places of redemption. Incredible boys and girls that have been rescued from this evil. I am free. I found hope. I feel alive. I found a home. I found new friends. I am valued. I feel safe and free from the people that abused me. Unknown and unfinished, because the mission isn't complete until all are known and all are free.
You're right. God has a special place for these type of people. You got that right. He sure does. See, and you also go to this page and it says sign up to access our warning guide. I've got the together we can fight against child sexual exploitation and abuse. We must have courageous conversations with our children and loved ones about this issue so we can make offenders' tactics ineffective. Arm your family with the knowledge and tools needed to fight this battle, starting at home. Download Child Sexual Abuse, Forewarning Signs, and How to Respond. This resource provides a wealth of information on how you can spot potential red flags and when it comes to child sexual abuse and the steps to take if a child discloses abuse to you. So let me open up here it is right here. Can y'all see it okay? Hope y'all can see it okay. Forewarning signs and how to respond. Parents and caregivers. On behalf of the TTF team, I want to make you aware of a growing problem we are facing right now. Child sexual exploitation is happening at an alarming rate. A majority of children who are sexually exploited are abused by people in their circle of trust. However, children can also be sexually exploited and groomed online by strangers. Pedophiles and child sex abusers don't walk around with a sign over their heads. They're not easy to spot. You won't be able to identify one walking down the street. They look like normal guys during the day. They have respectable jobs, and people trust them. They're pillars of the communities. They are pastors, pediatricians, teachers, husbands. These are people in your life that you know. They lead a double life. These offenders have spent their entire lives perfecting deception during the day. At night, some of them go online to communicate with other offenders. They share abuse material and discuss tactics and techniques to get to more children. Understandably, this is terrifying. The last thing you want is for something like this to happen to your children. You can better you can be better prepared to help safeguard them by understanding some of the warning signs of sexual abuse and how to respond if this happens to your child. Life can be very difficult following the disclosure that your child has been sexually abused. Not only are you dealing with the grief for their lived experience, but you are helping your child navigate the next steps and heal from his trauma. And you're grieving as well. You feel like you failed your child because it's happened to them. You kind of like think, why couldn't I protect them? And why couldn't I? If I had only, if I could had only. But now we need, after they had been done this way, we need to go about thinking about making it better for the child, where the child don't feel like they are to blame. Because the child will start thinking they are to blame when the mother starts blaming herself or himself, if they're not the perpetrators. No matter how hard it gets or how many times others don't believe you, your child is relying on you to be their advocate. The number one predictor of whether a child is going to heal and recover from their abuse is if their mother or father, their parent, some people that's over them, if they are believed. Be encouraged, be equipped, and be vigilant in safeguarding your children. God bless. Camille Cooper, Vice President of Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation at the TeBoww Foundation. Now, here are the four warning signs. Number one, be aware. Let me make this bigger so we can see it better. Be aware of anyone who wants to spend time alone with your child. Is your pediatrician asking to see your child in another room alone? Is there someone overly touchy with your child, playing tickling games with them? These are signs that someone is testing your child's boundaries. It looks innocent at first, but this is usually how it starts. Look out for anyone who wants to take them on overnight camping trips alone, take them shopping, give them one-on-one attention. In one case, a young girl who abused a basement TV room by the oh, who was abused in the basement TV room by the local priest while her parents cooked dinner for him upstairs. In another case, a toddler was left alone with a local TV repairman in the family room and was abused while mom did the dishes in the next room. Be vigilant. 2. Watch out for the person who gives your child special attention. Most sex abuse crimes are committed by someone the child knows and trusts, a father, an uncle, a grandfather, and close family friends. They groom you at the same time they are grooming your child. It's many times the nice guy in the family, the neighbor with the cool video games, or the boyfriend who is always offered to babysit to give you a break. If your child doesn't like someone, even a close relative is afraid of them and doesn't want to be alone or hugged by them, pay attention. This is an early warning sign that something is off. Is this person buying gifts for your child, texting them one on one? Offenders are very good at grooming you to build your trust, which could result in you lowering your defenses, ultimately allowing them guarding access to your children or child. 3. Keep an eye on your child's behavior. Children who are being groomed will not recognize what is happening. The offender has honed his skills to make children feel safe and to feel special. They often convince children keep secrets about their relationship. Your child may spend more time at the offender's house or on their devices. They may start to isolate themselves from their friends and withdraw socially, even from you as a parent. If abuse has started, the child may have sleep disturbances, nightmares, bedwetting, or other regressive behaviors. Don't scold them. Ask gently about how they are doing, and no matter what, reassure them that you will never be mad at them if something ever happens to them. As abuse continues, your child may experience more physical symptoms like stomach aches and bouts of uncontrollable crying, or physical signs of abuse. In the majority of sex abuse cases, physical injury is not present, mainly because the children delay disclosure of their abuse, sometimes for weeks, months, or even years after the abuse occurred. Offenders also deter the report of the abuse by threatening a child with harm of a family member or a beloved pet, or with the idea that the child will get in trouble if they tell. This gives time for the body to heal. So a physical exam with no injury cannot rule out abuse. However, if there has been recent abuse, a child may complain of pain in the private area. Any signs of injury or abnormalities should be evaluated by your pediatrician. How to respond to disclosure. If your child discloses abuse, listen to them. Only 20 to 30% of children report their abuse soon after the event occurred. Most children would delay disclosure of their abuse for years and even into adulthood. Sometimes we could have blockages. Children have usually been threatened to remain silent, so overcoming that takes tremendous courage. This may sound impossible in a moment like this, but it's imperative that you do not shut your child down if they disclose abuse to you. For young children, there is the accidental disclosure. This might occur at a doctor's visit or at bath time. Other children would tiptoe towards a disclosure to test the waters of your reaction. They might start with Uncle Bob is not a nice person or something similar to see how you respond. A good rule of thumb is to ask open-ended questions like, "Oh, why is that?" And so, well, you shouldn't say that about your uncle. Wow, that's true. How many times have we said that? Don't say that about your uncle. He's a good person. Instead, we need to go like, "Oh, why is that?" Because we're already telling the child that no, no, you don't have a right to come and talk to me about it. Don't discuss it. It's shutting the kid down. If your child makes a direct disclosure, ask questions calmly like, "When did that happen?" Be careful not to interrogate your child, as they can shut the child down. It can shut it down, okay, or him. While this type of disclosure is shocking, it's important to remain steady and calm while affirming your child. Thank them for telling you and reassure the child that they are not in trouble and that when you will help protect them, let your child lead the conversation. And my child was like that. I was quick. I didn't go ahead and hug until I asked him if he wanted to be hugged. You know what I'm saying? I didn't force him to hug. Remember how when we were growing up, we were always told to hug the adults regardless, even if you didn't want to hug? We don't need to tell our kids to do that because kids might have a special reason on why they don't want to. Take action immediately after receiving a disclosure. Do not alert or confront the offender. If the abusive event was written 72 hours of disclosure, contact law enforcement and then contact your pediatrician. If the abusive event took place more than 72 hours before the disclosure and did not involve physical injury, there will likely not be physical evidence, and you should contact the National Child Abuse Hotline at 1 800 for a child. Again, 1 800 for a child. They are open 24 hours a day, and they keep things anonymous. Keep a record of the disclosure, write down exactly what was said and the date and time. That's good advice. Be sure to write it down on paper so you know what date your child said this or said that. Keep a record of it. For mothers reporting abuse perpetrated by a biological father, your case will likely be tried in family court, not criminal court, where issues of protection and custodial access will be litigated. If you are in that situation, contact childjustice.org immediately after contacting a child abuse hotline or local law enforcement. If your child was abused by a non caretaker, your case will go to law enforcement. If your child was abused by a caretaker, then your case will go to social services. And I want to reiterate, I've got a lot of friends who the parent had claimed that the other parent had done sexual stuff, but it was their ward to where the parent could not get custody. And I do not want any of y'all to do that to another parent. That hurts the child. The child needs both parents, unless a parent is harming the child. About TFF's Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation Ministry, the Tim Tebow Foundation is committed to fighting for the millions who have been trafficked, exploited, and who are at risk of becoming victims across the globe. In partnership with organizations in both the United States and abroad, the Foundation is actively fighting against human trafficking and child exploitation in three ways: prevention, rescue, and survivor care. For more information on TFF's Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation Ministry, visit timtebow.org. So let me go to that right quick. Click on the link where it is right here. Anti-Human Trafficking, Child Exploitation, in partnership with organizations. Let's get off of here. In both the United States and abroad, the Tim Tebow Foundation is actively fighting against human trafficking and child exploitation in three ways: prevention, rescue, and survivor. Let me move this thing out of the way right here. Except almost one out of every 150 people in the world is now being trafficked on any given day. Monsters are chasing me. Here's Eli's story, read by Debbie Tebow. Let me go back to StreamYard and mute that so that y'all could hear Emmy's story.
Rescue me. Rescue me. Help me. Monsters are chasing. Can you see? Monsters are whispering. Can't you hear? Monsters are shouting. You're nothing. You're nothing. Can't you feel my pain? Monsters are pushing. And it all just jumped. Can you hear all the whines? I'm asking. Monsters are laughing. You're all alone in this darkness.
At 2 a.m. one morning, my aunt shook me awake. She said, "Ellie, I have a friend. He wants to say hi to you. He wants you to do a show for him." I was half asleep and didn't understand what was happening. But I tried to obey. Afterwards, I was shaking and sick to my stomach, but was told to go back to bed. I couldn't sleep. I buried my head in the pillow and cried and cried. That night had changed me. I became two-faced Ellie. My dark mask was worn at night. While at school, I would put my pretend smile mask over my dark soul and try to survive another day. My own family was out to destroy me. They stole my innocence. They stole my life. I became a two-faced robot with no soul. Ultimately, I lost myself. I let the darkness fill me, and I wanted to die.
When she first came here, I can notice that all her smile that she's showing to us, they're all fake. They're not real smile. They're not joy. It's not coming from the heart. It's coming from her past. She's trying to put a mask on that she's okay.
I was talking with Ellie, and as she was being rescued, one of the last things that one of her family members said was, "Be strong for your sisters." And so it's like she had a blank face here, and when talking with her, she just felt numb inside. But she tried as hard as she could to be strong for her sisters, but she could only be strong for so long.
So after a month or so, after talking to her, really pouring out love and relationship, good godly relationship with her, she finally just burst out. After 2 months, she came to our office and she said, "I can't take it anymore." And she just wept and wept and wept for like an hour or so. And she just said, "Well, I miss my mom." But it's now finally sinking into me that what she's done to me is wrong, and it's not real love. So all her entire life, it's like fake Ellie. And so when we finally poured in love to her and showing her the right love, the godly love that only coming from the Lord Jesus Christ, she finally, this is real love.
One of my favorite moments was she came to my office, and I could tell something inside of her just felt different. She said, "Pastor Stephen, I just want to sit down and talk with you."
That glorious day, my incredible God came and rescued me from my sin, my anger, my shame, my pain, and He gave me a brand new life and a brand new name. I was now adopted as a daughter of the King and welcomed into the most loving family of God. We have been praying for her. We've been so fortunate and honored to be able to have somewhat of a front row seat and then being able to meet her in person and give her a hug in person was so special. It was one of the most special days ever. She gave me the most beautiful painting. This is the meaning of her painting.
It's my heart that she saved by the love of God. He gave Himself to the cross for me to be saved, to be His precious daughter. And He fixed me even though He got wounded. He fixed me and He loves me no matter what I look like and no matter who I am. Heart of man shaped by the love of God. Heart of mine filled with His word. My broken heart scattered, but the love of my life picked its pieces, and even though He got wounded, He willingly fixed me.
Heart of man shaped by the love of God. Heart of mine filled with His word. My broken heart scattered, but the love of my life picked its pieces. And even though He got wounded, He willingly fixed me.
I think this has been a pretty good presentation. What does y'all take? What do y'all think about this organization by Tim TeBoww, Unknown and Unfinished? I think it is amazing. I want to thank Tim TeBoww for coming out and doing this. I know in October he's supposed to have something happening in Knoxville, Tennessee, and you dress up in costumes so you don't actually have to show your real face, your true identity, basically. And it's a fundraiser type of ordeal so that they could get it out there about the trafficking. And I hope and pray that I'll be able to attend. I think that would be so awesome. It would amazing. Thank y'all for coming, and I hope y'all share this because it's very important, as well as the other video I did on the meeting that's going to happen concerning Sebastian Rogers in Clarksville, Tennessee on the 24th. Thank you, everyone, and may God bless you. Lots of love. Thank you so much. My bucket list. I appreciate y'all. And that God does have a special place for these types of people. Amen. I thank everybody for coming and say God bless to each and every one of y'all. Be a voice for the voiceless. Good night, everyone.